Hi, my name is Holly Cuddington, and my lesson today is on multiplication strategies. The lesson I designed is for third grade math, and it covers SOL 3.5 as well as SOL 3.6. SOL 3.5 states that the student will recall multiplication facts through the 12's tables. Although this SOL also discusses corresponding division facts, we are not going to work on division today. The other SOL is 3.6. The student will represent multiplication and division using area, set, and number line models and create and solve problems that involve multiplication of two whole numbers, one factor 99 or less, and the second factor 5 or less. The classroom will be an inclusion classroom with a population of both general education as well as special education students. The students who receive special education services will receive those services due to specific learning disabilities, attention deficit disorder, emotional disabilities, and possibly autism spectrum disorder. The materials that we will need for this lesson are a teacher computer with connection to the classroom Promethean board. That is because we're going to be watching a brain pop video. This is to review arrays, and third graders love brain pop, and it's always a good way to get them engaged in your lesson. I also would have the students have their interactive notebooks out. Although nothing's going to be added to those today, they're always helpful to have out as a resource or a reference for the students to look back at. They will also need mini marshmallows, small stickers, glue, markers and pencils, blank paper, poster board, tablets for each of the students in the classroom, and then there's a couple links for quizzes, which we'll talk about later in the PowerPoint. Prior to this lesson, the students will have already learned the following strategies for multiplication. They will have learned about groups of, repeated addition, number lines, and arrays. We will have also talked about what the commutative property is in multiplication. So the first part of the lesson will be the brain pop video that I discussed. This video is on arrays, and it's just a simple review to kind of jog their memory about one of the strategies that we have been discussing in class. After they watch the movie, we're going to come and we are going to review the strategies using the anchor charts that we've created on the previous days. So I've included an anchor chart here that wasn't one that I personally made, but was one that I found that talks about the strategies that we're talking about as well today. After we have that discussion, we're going to create a sample strategy poster to use as a model. So this model is going to be for the activity that they're going to be doing independently. They are creating a strategy poster, which is highlighting 4 strategies that we've learned. So on the top left quadrant of the paper, you'll see that it says commutative property. In that quadrant, I would give them the choices of either the commutative property or a number line. The reason for that is some of the number lines can get super long, and there's just not enough space on this particular activity to include that. So depending upon the multiplication problem, I would just give them that choice. They could do commutative property, they could do the number line. Then the top right quadrant, you'll see that they're going to be showing the repeated addition for their multiplication problem. Bottom left, using the stickers, they're going to create the groups of. And then finally in the bottom right quadrant, they're going to use the marshmallows, and they're going to create an array. For your friends that possibly have some sensory issues and might have trouble with the stickers or the glue when they're gluing down the marshmallows, or the marshmallows themselves, you could always just use markers. You could always just use pencil. The goal is just to see what your students know at this point. After the students have completed the posters and they're waiting for their classmates to finish, because we always have friends that finish at different times, what they're going to do is they're going to pair up and they're going to play the baseball multiplication game on their tablets. So together they'll go to the link and There's a total of 20 multiplication problems. So each person gets their turn, and they solve the multiplication problem. If they get it correct, they get a point. If they get it incorrect, then the other player gets to have a try themselves. Just kind of a fun way to keep them engaged. They're still on task. They're still practicing their multiplication facts while they wait for their classmates to finish up the offline activity. Finally, the students are going to be completing a quizzes. I love quizzes because it's a really positive program where when you get it right, they have really fun memes that keep the kids engaged. And although I love Kahoot as well, this one I like because there's not as much pressure because you're not racing against another person in the classroom. It's an independent program where you're just taking it independently, so you don't have to worry about what your classmates are doing. So I made 2 different versions. The first version has 20 questions and 4 answer choices per question, and that's the one you're looking at here. It says, what multiplication problem does this array show? So hopefully your students are going to choose 3 times 4 equals 12 as their answer. But in addition, I made a second version for our friends that might get a little overwhelmed by so many questions and so many answer choices. This one has 10 questions and only 2 answer choices per question. So which equation matches this array? And hopefully the student would choose 5 times 3 equals 15. This page talks about extension ideas that you could use with multiplication. One of the extension ideas is multiplication monsters. So what you do is you create monsters by using products of problems to determine the number of body parts. So for example, if you look at the monster that I created, I was focusing on the fours tables. So the eyes, I chose 4 times 2 equals 8. So there's 8 eyes there. Or if you look at the ears, 4 times 5 equals 20. So there's 20 little ears there. You could make these as creative as they wanted to be. So, and they could really focus on a particular fact that they're struggling with, or they could just have fun with it. Another idea that I included was iExcel as well as Prodigy. Both of these programs are great for students and really focus on content that you're learning in class. The great thing about these programs is you can do them at home or at school. Finally, another extension idea that I included was multiplication war. For this, you could use Uno cards, you could use dice, you could use just regular playing cards. And what you're doing is you're partnering up. Each person is going to lay down 2 cards. So say I lay down a 5 and a 3, and my partner lays down a 6 and a 8. So obviously I have 15 and my partner has 48, so my partner wins, so my partner would get the cards. So whoever has the most cards at the end wins the game. Finally, some ideas for differentiation. For students with communication disorders, simply completing the quizzes by pointing to the answer choice would work. This would allow the teacher to get an accurate understanding of whether or not the student has mastered the strategies. Also, as I stated earlier in the video, there are 2 versions of this assessment to take advantage of. What I forgot to mention earlier is that this assessment, the quizzes assessment, can be printed. So if a student needs to have paper and pencil, that is possible. Also, the strategy poster can be modified. The poster can be completed using Pixie, which is a great program where you can draw. Also, those, as I mentioned earlier, there are friends with our sensory issues may not want to touch the glue or the marshmallows, and so they could simply use markers. The lines on the paper could be drawn ahead of time for our students, and also the poster, it could be enlarged, and students can be given some larger manipulatives to glue onto the poster. Finally, this is just a quote I love. Fair isn't everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need in order to be successful. which I think is what we do every single day, just finding strategies and assistive technology that assist our students in any way possible so that they can be successful. Thanks so much for watching.